What a moment. What a moment. Let me bring in Mark Richards. He is the attorney who successfully represented Kyle Rittenhouse. Mark, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Good evening.
I want to begin with what we just saw, that moment. And a lot of eyes on Kyle Rittenhouse, obviously. I'm watching you. Your hand is over your head like this. How did you prepare for that moment, yourself, your client, and what was that moment like for you inside the courtroom?
I don't think you can ever prepare for that moment. I told my client that if he's found guilty, he's going to be remanded to custody, handcuffed, and be going to prison. If he was found not guilty of everything, he's going to go home and be with his family and start his life over. And he hugged his two sisters and his mother before we walked down. And I knew in my heart that might be the last time for a long time. And I'm thankful it wasn't.
How is he doing tonight?
He's doing well. We rode in the same vehicle back to my office, and then he got out of here for security reasons. He hugged myself and Corey and, thanked us, and he's texted me several times. And once everything settles down, we'll get together and talk and kind of work through the emotions of what we went through today.
You've been practicing for several decades, Mark. Have you ever experienced a moment like this in your career?
If I said I had a case that so much was riding on it, somebody who's accused of 2 homicides and an attempt and numerous other charges, of somebody that young and so much riding on it with a very viable defense, I'd be lying. I believed in Kyle's innocence, and that makes it that much harder. When you're representing somebody who's guilty, you've got nowhere to go but up. But if you really believe your client didn't do it and shouldn't be held criminally responsible, it's a whole nother ball to lift.
So I want you to think about this entire case, not just the trial, but the entire case from the night of the shooting till tonight. Did this process show the best, or did it show the worst of our system of justice?
There was good and there was bad. I didn't come into this until about 4 weeks after it happened. I think some of the original representation was at best flawed. I don't think people were really looking out to protect Kyle. I think some people were using him as a golden goose to raise money. I'm thankful that I was brought into the case, asked to come in by an attorney from Virginia by the name of Marina Medved. And then I began working on the Wisconsin defense. I didn't agree with the extradition. I thought it was ridiculous. They went forward with that at great cost, expense, and delay. And it made him look like he was afraid to come to Wisconsin and face the charges. But we got through that, got him into court. We're thankful for the people who raised that money to bond him out, which made my job 100 times easier. To see a client walking in and out of court every day, juries pick up on that. To prepare a client and not have to be in a jail being monitored by the government was invaluable. And we were able to pull it all together in the end. It was obviously in doubt up until today at 1 o'clock or noon.
This is such a polarizing case, and it had political implications at the end of the day. Do you think that Kyle Rittenhouse was treated fairly by the media, by big tech, by public figures?
No. That's the quick answer. Some of the tweets that came out at the beginning talking about him crossing state lines, going there to hunt people, were ridiculous. They weren't borne out by the facts. He had strong ties to that community. He worked in Pleasant Prairie, which was less than 7 miles away. His best friend lived in Kenosha. He went there to help people in the daytime, he was there trying to get graffiti off the walls. It hurt him what happened in Kenosha. I know there's a segment of society that will never believe that, but they're the ones with the problem, not Kyle Rittenhouse.
So as you look at what happened and what the jury did today, is there any sort of a lesson in all of this?
I've heard lots of other people talk about lessons. I don't think this case is so fact specific. I don't think there's an overriding lesson. I don't for a minute believe a bunch of 17 or 18-year-olds are going to go out, arm themselves, and go to demonstrations. That's not what this case was about. This case was about, the difference between a demonstrator and a rioter. And the people who Kyle ended up dealing with were rioters, not demonstrators. They were there to inflict harm on the community, and ultimately they tried to inflict harm on Kyle Rittenhouse. And as we say in this business, they came in second.
How about from your perspective, when those riots were happening and the news of Kyle Rittenhouse was making headlines, what was your initial reaction to everything that was happening in Kenosha?
I woke up that morning, the 26th. I happened to be in a hospital for a medical problem in Kenosha, and I saw it on the morning news, and I was shocked. And, you always ask yourself as a criminal defense lawyer, I think, would I get involved in that case? And when I saw the initial videotape, I said to myself, I wouldn't represent that kid. And I believed what was being said about him. And then I started looking at more videotape as it came out, and I started to think about it, and probably in a little bit different terms, but it wasn't really relevant to me because I hadn't been asked to help him. And then I received the call, and I met with some members of the defense team. We talked about it, and there was, I think, some misguided attempts at the beginning to try and paint him as a patriot, a member of a militia, which he wasn't. I strongly disagreed with that. And we moved forward with a defense that was based upon the facts and existing law. And it was an honor to represent him.
What went into the preparation for trial to get ready? And how much time does it take?
My general rule is you need at least 3 hours of preparation for every hour you're going to be in court. And this case, it was much more than that because of the video, trying to learn the video, trying to go through it frame by frame, looking for people, identifying what was important. The investigators in this case, Todd from Los Angeles and Steve from Milwaukee, both retired homicide detectives, they were incredible. The things that they brought us, the witness statements. The last 6 weeks before the trial, it was all, this case was really kind of my life, and mostly Corey's life, Sharafasi, who was incredible as a co-counsel. The pressure was unimaginable, and we had an incredible jury consultant, Joellen, and she helped us. We worked on picking the right jurors. We had a profile. I think our profile was very similar to the government or the state's profile. We wanted law and order jurors, people who would be offended by what happened in Kenosha that day and the days before, which is kind of backwards when you're a criminal defense lawyer, but this case was kind of backwards that way.
I want to talk about you right now. How has this process and what you've gone through here impacted your life?
It's taken the last, 2 months of my life. It's taken over it. I like to go to football games, Badger games. Haven't been to one this season. I've been working on this case. I've been doing everything I can to prepare. The pressure has been incredible. My wife and my daughters have been very supportive, and I thank them for that. I know Corey's wife missed him for the last 4 weeks. I sent her a text today after the verdict, and I thanked her for giving me all that time with her husband to help Kyle. It was a group effort. the people who raised the money and helped pay for our fees. This couldn't have been done for free, and it wasn't. A lot of people gave a lot of money to give Kyle what I would like to think was an incredible defense.
Have there been threats? Has this changed the way you have to live your life?
I got so many threats today, I haven't been able to count them. About an hour ago, I answered my wife's phone because I thought I couldn't answer my phone. I was getting too many calls, and I told somebody to call me on that line. And the person said, they stated my address, and they said, we know where you live, and we're going to get you. And law enforcement has been good. I think they're giving me extra patrols. Somebody's sitting on my house. I want to get back to normal. I don't think I should be threatened for doing my job, but I know it's kind of part of the job, unfortunately.
Would you ever want to try another case like this?
I never say no. If the situation's right, I'm not one to walk away from a fight. I knew this case had a lot of potential for publicity. I had no idea it was going to blow up the way it did. I think yesterday somebody from the media told me there were 40 different news outlets covering it. And, I've gotten calls from friends and family I haven't seen in years because they saw me on the national news, which I kind of thought was funny. I didn't think it would be this big, to be honest.
What was the biggest surprise for you during the course of this entire journey of representing Kyle Rittenhouse? I mean, something that happened that surprised you weren't expecting.
Wow. There have been so many surprises. Witnesses coming forward at the last minute, the drone videos, some of the behavior of the prosecutor surprised me. I was a prosecutor for 4 years before I went into private practice. Corey was a prosecutor. You don't put on witnesses that you know are lying. And in this case, when they put on the Kandiri brothers to dirty up Kyle to try and further their narrative that he didn't belong in Kenosha, he didn't have permission to be there, I was so troubled by that. I think that's when it got more personal than any jury trial should get, but it did.
All right, Mark Richards is with us. Mark, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want to talk about the trial itself and just dive in. We appreciate your time tonight. When we return, folks, I know you've been watching this trial. You have seen it. We're going to go through some of those moments with Mark Richards, the man who today successfully represented Kyle Rittenhouse, who was found not guilty of all charges.
I stand by what the jury has concluded. The jury system works, and we have to abide by it.
The verdict really speaks for itself. As many of you know, I've spent a majority of my career working to make the criminal justice system more equitable, and clearly there's a lot more work to do.
The president and vice president weighing in on today's verdict here on Court TV. Kyle Rittenhouse found not guilty of all charges. His attorney, Mark Richards, after all he's been through, is sitting down with us tonight for a second segment. Mark, again, I appreciate it. You've got the president, the vice president chiming in. The president also chimed in before the trial, released a statement later tonight talking about how he was angry with the verdict. Number one, are you surprised that the president is chiming in on all this? And do you have a response to his anger with the verdict tonight?
Well, I saw the first statement that the president made, which we have to respect the jury verdict. They were in the room. The president wasn't. They heard all the evidence. The president didn't. For them to second guess a jury when they didn't see the evidence, I think is presumptuous. It doesn't further the calm discourse that I think we need. It's more of picking sides, and that's what this case has been about from the beginning.
Let me ask you about, let's get into the trial, and I want to start with the judge and just your thoughts about Judge Schrader, because he made a big impact on folks who were watching.
Yeah, he did. And, you know, the first time I ever appeared in a criminal courtroom was in his courtroom over 30 years ago. He's not a defendant's friend, but he's a good trial judge. He tries to call him down the middle. Juries love him. He's warm. And, you know, the things that everybody took him to task for, the tumbler, I know why he does it. He said why he did it, and I think it's reasonable. We weren't happy with the pulls Kyle made, but he pulled them. So there was that, and I think there's been a lot of much ado about nothing. The victim issue, that wasn't done on a motion by us. That's been his practice for over 20 years. And us being able to call these individuals riots, looters, and arsonists, which some of them were, I think was important. It's common language. I don't know what we were supposed to call them, rambunctious citizens. It just doesn't make sense. So I think it was a common sense ruling. And, you know, we weren't happy with every one of his rulings, but I think he gave us a fair trial. We would have liked to have more jury selection time, but we did what we did and the state did what they did, and I think we ended up with 12 very good jurors. They took this very seriously.
All right, you mentioned the prosecutor of the state. Let's talk about Thomas Binger. You know, I described you two as couldn't be more opposite. I was even sending memes of the odd couple to people, and no offense to either one of you, but that's just the way I saw you two. Is there any history that you have with him? You know, having practiced there for so many years, he's practiced for many years as well. Was there a history between you two?
You know, you might not believe this, but, you know, years ago when I was president of the local bar and he practiced in my community of Racine, he was on the board. We've always had a very cordial relationship. You know, I knew that this case was different. When I contacted Attorney Binger to try and keep my client's address secret because of the threats, the death threats, and he wouldn't agree to that, that's when I knew things were different. It wasn't going to be common sense and good judgment. It was going to be more of a political case, and that's what it turned into. I know people will end up hating me for saying that, but it's the truth.
And from my perspective, I'm a former prosecutor also, and I always talk about this concept that a prosecutor's job is to do justice. Justice equals the truth and wanting to find the truth. And, you know, the facts are what they are. You've got to argue them. But I just want to play a little tiny clip from his opening statement, which floored me, and it was right in the beginning. Let's take a look.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The evidence in this case will show that on the night of August 25th, 2020, here in our community of Kenosha, the defendant Kyle Rittenhouse, who was 17 years old at the time, had armed himself with an AR-15 style semi-automatic rifle loaded with 30 rounds in the magazine. And using that rifle, he shot and killed Joseph Rosenbaum, an unarmed man. The shot that killed Mr. Rosenbaum was a shot to the back. This occurred after the defendant chased down Mr. Rosenbaum and confronted him while wielding that AR-15.
I was floored by this because I'd seen many of the videos ahead of time, but I was like, maybe there are videos I haven't seen. What were you thinking as you're listening to him deliver that in the beginning of his opening statement?
I knew I had seen all the videos, but when he said that, there were two things going through my mind. One, did I miss something? And two, I was thankful because I knew the evidence didn't show that. And when a prosecutor steps out that far and can't bring it home, it hurts his credibility. I ordered from the court reporter that opening paragraph after he gave his opening statement because I was going to use it in my closing argument, and I did. To say that my client chased him down and shot him in the back when the whole video through Car Source 3 is Rosenbaum chasing my client is ridiculous. And I don't know if he was trying to do it for shock value or he didn't know his case at that point. Neither of them are good answers.
Yeah, and I would ask you, why do you think he did it? But that's a question I should be asking him, and maybe someday we'll have that opportunity. And then there were other things that happened that really surprised me, like commenting on your client's pretrial silence, directly referencing a piece of evidence that was specifically barred by the judge and was fully litigated by both sides. I had watched all this, and as all this is happening, in your mind, is it possible that he was doing it on purpose to try to end the case because things maybe weren't going so well for the state? Did that thought enter your mind?
That's what we said. He knew it. And there were 2 times where the state opened the door, and both times it happened, we warned them. The time where they were going to get into, Joseph Rosenbaum didn't like guns, he wouldn't be around guns. And they were opening the door to his prior record that he was a convicted felon, which had been subject of a motion. And I whispered in Krause's ear, and he goes, "Oh, yeah," and he stopped. And the other one was with Anthony Huber's aunt, when they wanted to get into, that he was such a gentle man and had never done anything wrong. And we had criminal complaints where he had choked people and threatened them with knives. So I'm not here to speak ill of the dead, but, they were stepping on it and stepping out on it, and we did not go through that door, and we wouldn't have without asking the judge. And Mr. Binger knows you can't do that, especially the Fifth Amendment. That's first-year law student stuff.
I remember getting it in prosecutor school. It was only 2 days of classes, but both days they talked about it. Let me ask you this. One of the decisions that you made was to advise your client that it would be a good idea to take the witness stand in his own defense. And there were a lot of experts looking at the trial, watching it, and saying, I don't even think it's necessary. Why? Everyone believed that you were ahead. What went into making that decision? Why did you say, hey, he needs to testify?
Every, I think, area of the country is different. And at least the times I've tried cases with personal assaults or death, in Wisconsin, the juries want to hear from people. And if you have a client who doesn't have the blemishes, you have to consider strongly putting him on. We did from the beginning. We believed he had to testify, explain his state of mind. We worked on it with him. When we did the mock trials, we did 3 mock trials, and one of them was without Kyle testifying. He scored incredibly better with the juries that he testified in front of than the one he didn't.
3 mock trials you guys did.
They were all done on the same day with 3 different panels. We divided them up through video and through what they got to see.
Let me ask you this.
12-person juries.
Let me ask you this. While he's testifying and being cross-examined, what's that like?
It's hell. I felt like somebody was standing on my chest. Most of the time, Corey Shirafisi was the individual who played the prosecutor and cross-examined him. I think that really prepared Kyle. I think Corey did a better job of cross-examining than Mr. Binger. And I think it helped Kyle be prepared for it. And there was a lot of talk in the sense of, I think if a client's going to take the witness stand, you can't give him the answers, but he has to understand what your themes are and what you're trying to get out of them to advance the cause. And Kyle was a good student. He paid attention. He's not a dumb individual. And it was scary to put him on, but we felt as though we had to, especially after the mock trials.
Final question here, Mark. Kyle Rittenhouse, we're looking at him right now, and I know attorney-client privilege, but not as an attorney to a client, but as a father, as a dad, as a man to a now 18-year-old who's been through what he's been through. What advice do you have for Kyle Rittenhouse tonight for the rest of his life?
Corey and I talked to Kyle yesterday. Obviously, we didn't know what the verdict was going to be, but we had some time alone with him, and we told him that he has to learn to be his own person. And we told him that the most important thing he can do is try and get back some of the anonymity he had. And he has to be able to tell people the most important word, and that's no. So people don't take advantage of him, and he protects himself.
Well, you guys did an unreal job protecting him. And Mark Richards, the attorney for Kyle Rittenhouse, we appreciate your time tonight. You're going to take the missus out. Will you take her out?
We're going to the Badger game tomorrow, and we're going to meet with Corey and Tina Sharafacy and have dinner.
All right, good stuff. Mark, thanks so much. I know this is a long, draining day, but we do appreciate you giving us and our viewers some insight into everything that happened.
Thanks for the first shake. I appreciate it.